shit yourself when Conor Benn charged at you on the pitch?
Honestly, I swear down, not at all.
Not at all.
Look at Eddie's reaction versus mine.
You did look chilled, I've got to be honest, because we just talked about your personality.
I think I stuck my hand out, which you would do, taking a step back, and was going to crack him. And then
I was going to crack him. You didn't stop smiling either, so you didn't flinch. And yeah, Eddie Hill did look worried.
Ben Shalom wasn't holding back in his interview with Carl Froch, making it clear that he's not backing down when it comes to the upcoming fight between Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn. When Froch mentioned the heated moment where Ben charged at Shalom, it became evident just how composed Shalom remained in the face of the drama. While Eddie Hearn was busy laughing and pointing like a schoolyard bully, Shalom stood firm, unshaken by the antics. He refused to let Ben or Hearn rattle him. His calm demeanor made it clear he wasn't about to tolerate any nonsense, no matter how much Ben tried to stir the pot. But beyond the pre-fight theatrics, the bigger picture is clear. Eubank Jr. is here to dominate. Shalom already has the backing of the fight world, and the anticipation is electric. When the bell rings, the question remains, will Ben be ready for the storm ahead?
I actually like Conor Benn. I think he's great value. I think he's like the perfect guy to build such a big fight, and Chris just winds him up. And yeah, I honestly, I would say if I was, but I would say a 3.
Yeah,
in terms
I believe that. I mean, you could easily bullshit your way out.
Shalom didn't mince words when discussing Ben, but when it came to Eubank Jr., the praise flowed freely. Eubank Jr. isn't just a fighter, he's a force of nature in the ring. Shalom recognizes his superior technical skill, raw power, and ability to push his opponent's buttons, especially Ben's. As the fight draws closer, the anticipation only intensifies. Eubank Jr.'s resilience and mental toughness have been tested time and again, and he's proven he can handle the pressure. Now, the stage is set for one of the most electrifying matchups in recent history. Eubank Jr. has earned a reputation that extends far beyond just his boxing skills. His fighting style is unmatched in many ways, and when he steps into the ring, the atmosphere shifts. Make no mistake, Eubank Jr. is a fighter fans can't afford to ignore. But here's the twist. What happens when these two finally clash? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like this video. Now
So yeah, I think the difficulty for Conor Benn in this fight is the weight and is the size. I think he's a better fighter. And I think at a natural weight class, he's a big favourite in the fight. But coming up 2 weight classes, it makes it a 50-50 fight. And you ain't going to blink in this.
Things get even more interesting. Eddie Hearn isn't sugarcoating it. Conor Benn is diving straight into a potential disaster. The real issue isn't his skill, but the daunting size difference. Jumping 2 weight classes isn't just a challenge, it's a career-defining gamble. At his natural weight, Ben might have been the clear favorite, but now the stakes are much higher. Eubank Jr.'s size, reach, and raw power could turn this fight into a nightmare for Ben. Once Eubank Jr. starts cutting off the ring, imposing his physicality, and walking him down, Ben could find himself in deep trouble. One misstep, one slip-up, and it could be curtains for him. The power dynamics here are terrifying, with both fighters stepping into the ring with something to prove. The burning question remains, will Ben's hunger and relentless aggression...
It's quite difficult sometimes, especially if you're dry like Chris Eubank. He will struggle to stay within that 10-pound limit. I have a feeling he won't do it. I have a feeling he'll agree to it, he'll pay a fine, and maybe weigh in 15 or 16 pounds over.
Who did he fight recently and he looked like he was completely dead at the weight?
His last fight.
Was it Liam Smith, the first one?
Yeah.
He looked like he looked awful.
Brutal. And that's how hard it is to make. That's why I think it's kind of... The rehydration clause puts things slightly more into Conor Benn's favour.
Would be enough to overcome the size gap, or will the weight difference crush his dreams before they even take shape? But here's another twist. Carl Frampton isn't buying into the hype. He's raising serious doubts about Eubank Jr. Carl Frampton isn't just throwing out wild claims. He genuinely believes Chris Eubank Jr. is in serious trouble, especially when it comes to making weight. Cutting down drains him, leaving him bone dry and struggling to maintain his strength. Frampton envisions a scenario where Eubank Jr. agrees to the terms, but then shows up well over the limit, maybe 15 or 16 pounds heavier than expected, paying the fine rather than risking his health. Let's not forget what happened against Liam Smith. Eubank was visibly drained, and that wasn't a fluke. The rehydration clause, which allows fighters to regain some weight after the weigh-in, adds another dangerous element to this matchup. Frampton sees this as a major advantage for Ben. Eubank Jr. is walking a fine line.
And Chris Eubank Sr. was pushing very hard for that should be the fight with the Ben family, not his son,
Harlem.
Chris Eubank.
Listen, if go on, sorry.
Well, I was going to say that we could well see a Ben Eubank 4 if Ben succeeds in a way against Chris Eubank, or...
And if the weight cut takes too much out of him, it could spell disaster. The real question is, can Eubank Jr.'s body handle the extreme cut, or will it break him before the fight even begins? Meanwhile, Chris Eubank Sr. has been vocal about the fight, but not in the way many expected. He's been pushing hard for a showdown between the Ben and Eubank families, but not with his own son. On the flip side, Adam Catterall isn't holding back. He dives straight into the family drama fueling this rivalry and calls out Eubank Sr.'s hypocrisy. Why push for a Ben Eubank fight but keep his son out of it? Catterall's criticism strikes hard, drawing attention to the contradictions in this long-standing feud. Within the Eubank camp, tensions are high and speculation is growing. Meanwhile, Adam Catterall takes it a step further, adding even more hype to the situation by suggesting that we could be on the verge of Ben
Scales again.
It may be a very disappointing fight if we find out when Chris steps in there against Conor that he is much, much too big for him. But I think they'll play 12 rounds and I think we'll get 2 fights. I just have this...
versus Eubank 4. If Conor Benn shocks the world with a victory, or even a strong showing against Chris Eubank Jr., this rivalry is far from over. Catterall's bold prediction is fueling fan speculation. The real issue isn't just this one fight, it's about an ongoing saga that could go down in history as one of boxing's most legendary rivalries. The stakes have never been higher, and as the countdown to April 26th continues, anticipation only intensifies. However, there's also a looming concern. What if the fight turns out to be a disappointment? If Eubank Jr. steps into the ring and completely overpowers Ben, the bout could quickly become a one-sided affair. The weight difference between the two is glaring, and Catterall is quick to point out that it could overshadow the hype, turning what was expected to be an explosive showdown into a lopsided spectacle. But Catterall doesn't stop there. He cranks up the intensity with a bold prediction.
I think it'll be a mismatch, just as much a mismatch as the presses have been. It will be a similar format, playing out in the physical. Chris is way too much, and that will become evident as the rounds go on in the fight.
Despite Eubank Jr.'s overwhelming size advantage, the fight could still go all 12 rounds. This unexpected possibility adds a layer of uncertainty, leaving fans on edge. Could Ben's skill and heart be enough to counter Eubank Jr.'s sheer size and power? Catterall's gut feeling casts a shadow over the event, raising serious doubts about the outcome. Will the hype be justified, or is this fight destined to fall flat under its own weight? Many believe it could turn into a complete mismatch, much like the buildup itself. As both fighters prepare to step into the ring, the burning question remains, is Ben truly ready for this challenge, or has he taken on an impossible task? One thing is certain, when the bell rings, the world will be watching. The fight is shaping up to follow a familiar pattern. Chris Eubank Jr.'s physicality will simply be too much, And
No, we are on good terms. I don't believe he didn't know about it.
No, you know I didn't know.
No, I don't, because I think you're a little bit snaky.
No, you know I didn't know. Don't talk.
No. Quiet. Because,
No. You can't say things.
No, stop, because then I'll take you through. Listen, I've been very nice to you lately.
You can't say
and I've been
things
very
after.
nice to you lately. I've given you a big education the
Yeah, but
last
you
couple of
can't
weeks.
say things
I've told
after.
you were very lucky to be talking to me. Right. But we do get on well. We actually have a bit of banter. He actually, if you don't mind me saying, he was asking me potentially to go and box as bald.
Yeah,
that will become evident as the rounds progress. On the other hand, Harlem Eubank isn't just making predictions. He's making a bold statement about what's to come. According to Harlem, this potential showdown is nothing short of a mismatch, a fight where one competitor is clearly outclassed. From the press conferences to the intense buildup, Harlem sees a distinct gap between Chris Eubank Jr. and his opponent. He's adamant that once the bell rings, the difference will only become more apparent. Eubank Jr.'s size, power, and presence in the ring will dominate from the very first round, Harlem asserts. As the fight progresses, he believes his cousin will impose his will to the point where his opponent simply won't be able to handle it. In his eyes, this bout will turn into a one-sided beating, with Chris proving to be far too much. But then again, boxing always leaves room for...
I think sometimes I have a little bit of weight to train off. Not a lot, but, and I think that's what Eubank's got, whereas Conor is already at the weight, or there or thereabouts. So that's also a benefit in the sense like he can now just completely fuel his training and fuel his performance. But it's always going to favour the bigger man. It's always going to favour the bigger man. But age is the biggest factor for me.
The unexpected. Could a shocking upset throw the entire fight into chaos? Or will Eubank Jr.'s superiority be undeniable? On the flip side, Adam Smith didn't hold back when discussing the rising tension surrounding the fight. Despite maintaining a technically good relationship with the other party, he openly expressed his frustration. Smith wasn't convinced by their claims of ignorance and wasted no time calling out what he saw as a calculated attitude. He made it clear he wasn't buying the narrative of unawareness regarding the unfolding events. His irritation was palpable, admitting he had been overly accommodating only to be met with dismissals and subtle disregard. Yet despite the tension, Smith managed to lighten the mood, recalling some humorous exchanges. Even amid the drama, there was still space for a laugh. Adam Smith jokingly hinted at the idea of joining them on Box as B, leaving fans to...
my gym the whole time, and I'm also very close with Conor Benn. He's a good pal of mine, so it's very hard for me to sort of sit back and say this or say that. I think they're doing a fantastic job in selling their fight. I think it's going to be a fantastic fight. They both obviously have the needle with each other, and they're both going to give it everything, so be prepared for war, and I hope they get out of the ring safe and...
Wonder whether it was just a casual remark or something deeper. Despite the underlying tension, the complex connection remained, leaving many unanswered questions hanging in the air. On the other side, Shane McGuigan doesn't hesitate to highlight the advantages of carrying extra weight during training. He argues that Chris Eubank Jr. strategically uses this to his benefit, leveraging the added weight to push himself harder in preparation for battle. Meanwhile, Conor Benn, already close to his fight weight, can focus solely on optimizing his conditioning and honing his skills to perfection. On paper, Benn's approach might seem smarter, allowing him to fine-tune his performance without the added strain of weight management. However, McGuigan isn't entirely convinced. He knows that in a fight, size often plays a decisive role. In this showdown, Eubank Jr.'s natural size advantage could be the determining factor.
Conor's his dad's son, and his dad's exactly the same. And the Eubanks and the Benns, they know each other's strengths and weaknesses, and so there'll always be that family rivalry going on. And Chris's aloof personality, riles Conor, like his dad did, with their dads did. So.
Moreover, McGuigan raises another crucial point: age. While Benn's conditioning is top-notch, the age difference between him and Eubank Jr. could become significant. As the fight drags into the later rounds, stamina and recovery will be key. The older, more experienced Eubank Jr. may have the edge when it matters most, making age a potential game-changer in this explosive matchup. Meanwhile, Tommy Welch opens up about the difficulty of staying neutral ahead of the high-stakes showdown. With strong ties to both fighters, Welch finds himself torn between personal connections and professional perspective. Having trained with Ben at his gym, their bond has strengthened over time, making it even harder for him to pick a side. Still, he praises both fighters for building the anticipation, recognizing the intensity and heat surrounding this bout. The rivalry between Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn is intense, and Tommy Welch doesn't hesitate to call it what it is, a true war. Both fighters will step into the ring with everything on the line, each determined to prove they are the best. Welch's only hope is that both men leave the ring unscathed, regardless of who emerges victorious. This fight is shaping up to be one of the most heated clashes boxing has seen in years. Meanwhile, Johnny Nelson doesn't hold back when discussing Ben, making it clear that the young fighter has crossed a dangerous line. Ben's reckless comments and unpredictable behavior have raised red flags, and Nelson can't ignore the controversy surrounding him. On the other hand, when Nelson shifts his focus to Eubank Jr., he praises his relentless dedication and unwavering consistency. Eubank Jr. is fully committed to building his own legacy, showing resilience in the face of distractions. Meanwhile, Ben's antics outside the ring continue to dominate headlines, overshadowing his potential and leaving fans and experts questioning his true character. The divide is clear. Eubank Jr. remains locked in and focused on his mission, while Ben is engulfed in drama that detracts from his progress. The real question is, can Ben silence the noise and let his performance speak for itself, or will the chaos surrounding him derail his career at the most critical moment? The stakes have never been higher. Comment below with your thoughts, like if you agree, and don't forget to subscribe for more explosive insights as the drama builds toward April 26th. The countdown has begun, and you won't want to miss what happens next.